It's not easy to break the internet, but somehow Baltic managed to do that when they announced their new Hermétique Tourer. At least in the dark section of the internet we enthusiasts live in. I mean, I can understand why. It looks absolutely stunning. But is this watch as good as it's hyped up to be? Or is it all looks and no substance? Well, Baltic let me spend some time with this watch, so let's find out. You know, it's hard to believe that Baltic is only 6 years old. It feels like they've been around forever by now. This French microbrand has built a reputation for itself in such a short time, releasing hit after hit after hit. This is Baltic's take on the everyday tool watch, and it's the first time they've released a watch in this format. It comes in 4 colors. You can choose between green, brown, blue, and beige. You can get them on color match FKM rubber straps, or if you're a bracelet guy like me, the signature Baltic Beads of Rice bracelet, or the new flat link bracelet. An everyday watch that's actually going to be worn every day needs a good comfortable case, and I feel that Baltic nailed it with this one. The case has a certain neo-vintage vibe, and those long elegant lugs suit it beautifully. The 37mm size and overall dimensions sit right in that Goldilocks zone for most wrist sizes. The case is also incredibly slim. It's so comfortable to wear that sometimes I forgot that I was even wearing it. The case is almost entirely brushed, and the fit and finish are incredible for the price point. The brushing is so fine and consistent, and I also love that they brush the case sides. The drill lugs are a nice touch. This makes strap changes easy, and judging by how good it looks on straps, this is probably something you're going to do quite often. The bezel is the only polish element on the case, and it's a great design choice. It adds a bit of luster, and it helps draw your eyes towards the dial. Now, we can't talk about this case without mentioning the elephant in the room, that integrated crown. This has probably been one of the main talking points about this release. It's kind of like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. Which side are you on? Let me know in the comments. It's practical in the sense that you'll not bang the crown against something, but it's also really impractical when you're actually trying to use it. It's hard to get a good grip to wind the watch, and the crown doesn't pop out that far when you're trying to set the time. Speaking of that, the crown doesn't actually pop out at all. I mean, you can pull it out, but you don't get that distinct pop you usually get when you pull a crown into the hacking position. I don't know if this is a feature, but it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just a different feeling, and I had to take some time to get used to it. The crystal is a beautiful box sapphire that's raised a couple of millimeters above the dial. There's also a clear application of AR coating on the underside, and it does a good job, which is important because as cool as the case is, the dial is the absolute star of the show here. The dial color is a really deep dark blue. It looks almost black most of the time, but when the light hits it just right, you see that gorgeous deep blue popping out. I like how tasteful the printed text is. They've used a perfect combination of fonts and sizes, and they didn't write any essays on the dial. Yes, you know who I'm talking about. The dial is broken up into 2 sections, and it has a polish ring that breaks up the inner dial and the minute track on the outside. It's not just a flat ring though. If you look closely, it's actually raised in the middle with 2 facets on either side, so it catches the light in interesting ways. If that's not incredible attention to detail, I don't know what is. We can't talk about the dial without talking about those indices. They're made entirely from Lume. I've reviewed other watches that had 3D Lume blocks, so it's not my first time seeing this. But the execution on this Baltic is by far my favorite. The Lume indices are so raised and refined, and it just looks a step above any other watch I've seen. There's Lume numerals on the inner section of the dial, dots beside them on the outer minute track, and stick indices overlapping both sections to tie everything together. The syringe hands are also beautifully proportioned, and all their tips hit the right registers. One thing that doesn't come across in videos or photos is the depth of the dial. It's something that really needs to be experienced with the watch in front of you. This is one of those dials you'll just keep staring at without even realizing it. Come to think of it, This dial does remind me a lot of my Trasca Samatia. Should I make a comparison video of these two watches? Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. If you're a Lume junkie, you're going to love the Lume on the Hermétique. The blue BGW9 glows like a torch in the dark, and I'd expect nothing else from Indices made entirely from Lume. They've also managed to pack a ton of Lume on the hands, so the brightness on the hands looks consistent with the Indices. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but you'd be surprised. Even brands like Tudor get this wrong, so I've got to give props to Baltic for the flawless Lume application. Onto the movement. This watch is powered by the Miyota 9039, which is the no-date variant from the trusty 9000 series. I've had it on a couple of watches and it's always performed flawlessly. The example in this unit is no different. It kept great time, and that smooth second-hand sweep is just so nice to look at. The flat link bracelet has a really nice taper, going from 20mm at the lugs to 16mm at the clasp. The small links have good articulation and the right amount of flex, so it's going to mold to the shape of your wrist. As good as it looks, I'm not a fan of the polish outer links. That polish finish is going to pick up fingerprints and scratches really easily. That's not exactly something you look for in a tool watch. I also noticed that the first link on my unit gets stuck sometimes. I checked with Baltic and they mentioned this can happen because of the design of the links. It's not a huge issue, but I wanted to point that out anyway. The mill clasp is signed with the Baltic logo. It's surprisingly low profile for an everyday watch. I normally give a hard time to any clasp that comes with only 2 micro adjustment positions, but the small links on the bracelet kind of make up for it in this case. You can dial in your fit just by removing the links, so I had no problem getting a perfect fit for my wrist. The bracelet also has a quick release spring bar, so it's gonna be easy to pop it off for strap changes. Taking this all in, what do I think of the Hermétique Tourer? I think I've fallen in love with this watch, and I feel it's definitely lived up to the hype. It's so beautiful and refined, and you can really see the amount of attention to detail and design that Baltic put into this. It's quite incredible that you're getting this much quality and refinement on a $615 watch. Of course, it's not perfect. Crown struggles aside, this watch can look a bit too flashy to be a tool watch, and not flashy enough to be a dress watch. But I feel like that's the beauty of it. It has a good balance, and that's going to make it a great choice for an everyday watch. If you like this movement but you want something with a cleaner aesthetic, check out my video of the limited edition stained glass Naos. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.